Welcome, everyone. We're back with another episode of Living Magic Occult-Cast. This is episode 7, I believe, and today I have the lovely Jenn Salvadori. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Yay! I see it and I think of like the artist and everything. I'm like, oh yeah, you've got like the flair and like you're very witchy lady. I love it. So
Oh, thank
welcome,
you.
Jenn. Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is so lovely that you do this.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, this is really a chance for us to gather together and hear a bit about your life, your story, your experience within like magic and the esoteric. And, I feel like I know you from the online world, but we met through the 22 Teachings community and you like do quite a bit with them. But
Mhm.
I'm curious, like, what led you there? Like, how did you come to all of this fun, magical stuff?
Um, I think just like with a lot of other people, I had a horrible just personal thing happen in my life, and I was kind of floundering and didn't really have like a direction. I was very all over the place. It also happened during the very beginning of COVID, and up until COVID, I had pretty much associated work with who I am intrinsically as a human in such like a deep way that I didn't know what to do with myself when it wasn't there anymore. And I had a breakdown of varieties. And somehow I ended up via social media, I ended up on a bunch of manifestation, like kind of podcasts and like checking out all this. And very quickly, I was like, oh, this is like a pyramid scheme, like most of the things that I saw. So I wasn't so excited by that, but there was one particular episode that was all about astrology. And it made me start looking into my personal astrology more than like I did when I was in high school. Uh, and so as I dug deeper, things were more and more like clear. I was like, oh, this is legitimate. Like, how does this know so much about me? And I knew somebody since the 90s. I used to be a swing dancer back in the 90s, and like I taught all over and it was fun. But one of my friends from that time, her name is Ann Penn, and she actually teaches at 22 Teachings. So she was a person who was also on my social media. And I hit her up and I said, "What? Okay, give me the juice on this astrology stuff. Like, what what is going on here? How do I learn more about this? Where do I go? Like, I trust you. Help me." And she was like, "Well, actually, I teach classes, but in order to take the classes, you have to have this prerequisite called Magic Fundamentals." At the time, I was also very close to filing for bankruptcy, so I didn't have a lot of money. But the school worked with me. We worked out a payment plan, all kinds of stuff. Like it was a very generous situation. And I ended up taking that Magic Fundamentals class. And it was like, I've been here before. Like I've done this. I've never seen these sigils before, but I know these. Like it was very like this is a part of me, but like on a really subtle and base level. Like it was just like a very strange but cool experience. So from that Magic Fundamentals class, I was just absolutely hooked. I ended up going through with the astrology course. I did astrology too. I'm very like I kept going in the astrology world, but then I added tarot and I added Hermetic Kabbalah and all that kind of good juice.
Okay, wow. So like what you're telling me then, Jen, thank you for sharing that. It's like it's been like 5, 6 years, whatever. I don't remember when COVID was, but like
Yeah, it's like 5 years. Yeah.
okay, since you started. Okay, yeah, because I'm like, oh, you've been doing this for like decades. Like it's like in you, and I love that because that's something like oftentimes people I think they don't want to even start looking or studying because it's overwhelming. It can feel that way sometimes. I think especially depending on like the teacher that we
Mm-hmm.
have, right? Kind of how we click with their energy and so forth and receive the teaching. But like it doesn't matter how long it's been when it's there and it feels like home, kind of like you've said, it
Yep.
just felt like familiar to you. You pick it up. And then
Yes.
you're like, because I see you as like, like even how you talk, you're constantly like reflecting back to the astrological signs and the placements now. And like, even, in those occult saloons, like talking about the tarot and like, I feel like it just like rolls off your tongue really well. And that surprises me. And it's also really like comforting to know it doesn't matter how far along we are, that
Yeah.
like when it's meant for us, or like in magic, whatever that might be, that it's going to like just like click, and we'll start to like align with it in a new way. So that's, yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, there's a part of me that is even a little like uh struggles with imposter syndrome because I do
Mhm.
know so many people have been doing this significantly longer than I have, that have been practicing for so long. They know more than I do. They've got a depth of knowledge that I haven't been exposed to yet. But I do think that exposure is a huge piece of this.
Mhm.
If I was exposed to a lot of this stuff much earlier, I definitely would have been into it a much earlier. But there is that like occult element of it. You have to get to it when you get to it.
Mhm.
And it either grabs you or it doesn't. And it grabbed the F word out of me. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
Yeah, I think so.
Like,
You do. You do. Yeah.
okay.
No, no, no holding back. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Then I wonder though, like I think back to experiences in life personally, where it's like if I didn't go through that complete like disruption of my life, which it sounds like you reached that point, would I
I did.
have stepped into the same level of like acceptance with what was coming in, with the teacher, with the learning opportunity, like um that's hard to say. But like maybe you have something more to add to that, but like I wonder like if you've ever received any insights on why it feels familiar. Like is this like a past life thing,
I
or
definitely
like
think
what's
so.
that like? Yeah.
I can't say definitively. I as so often is the case in this world, I don't have empirical evidence to back it up. But but like yeah, I definitely think it's a just my intuition tells me it's a past life thing. It's like a soul's journey that I've got several that came before this version, and I will have several after. But yeah, I I think it's along those lines. I don't know exactly what though.
Yeah. Okay. And isn't it exciting, like, to think about like the level of knowledge now, which I hear you, it's like, I often tell like I know nothing. Like
Yeah.
I might know some things but I didn't know them like before, and I still like the level of degree I witness in other people and their understanding, and the things that I might read and feel like completely detached from. It's like, wow, if it's been 5 years or 10 years or what, like imagine what it's going to look like when I reach like 70, or oh, there's balloons on my screen. That was weird. Okay,
Surprise!
don't make signals with your hands. Well, that was bizarre. Um, but I feel like that's so encouraging. Like
I totally agree.
yeah, right. Like we're constantly just evolving and expanding and
I
adding to
think
it.
that's
Yeah.
everything. And I think coming from that place of like, I'm always going to be a student and genuinely, like, not just lip
Mhm.
servicing that, but like genuinely doing it. Like, the stack of books sitting right by my couch is bananas, but I pick them up all the time and I'm constantly learning something new. And I just think if you're coming from that place, life is always opening up. Like it just keeps unfurling, it keeps opening up to you. And such like a joy, like a gift. And you just keep on trucking, baby. Like keep it going.
Yeah, wow. Well, you said like when you were had like work and employment kind of stripped away, you realized how much that was a part of your life. Like, where has it shifted to now? Especially since you've come into this like new kind of like spiritual understanding about yourself, about life. Like, has there been a change in that? Like, how you approach what it is you're
Definitely.
doing, or yeah, your relationship with that?
So I work in concerts. Before my whole life, before COVID, my whole life was wrapped up in the fact that like I work in this really fun, exciting innovative, dynamic industry. And it was very like, you got to do this all the time. You're always at work. You're always pushing, 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 pushing. And then when you hit that brick wall and all of that ends, or you just, not necessarily ends, because I did get retained. So like I was kept at work. It's just I had a much less busy role. I wasn't constantly in the middle of all of the different like conversations and like people needing things. And I was no longer in that situation, which was healthy. I just didn't know it at the time. So like that abrupt stop was necessary, but at the time it felt like I literally had hit a brick wall. Like I couldn't think straight. Now, going back to work after all of this work that I've done, all of and continue to do, all of just the life experience that took place during that time has informed a more I want to say like serene work environment. So like, yes, it's still high paced, it's still dynamic, it's still all of these things. But like when people come into my office and they are trying to get at me about like a parking situation or they, you know, these things, it just has realigned like the priorities. And it's so much more just generally healthy for everyone. Like even the difference before COVID, I didn't bring my dog to work with me, but now I have to bring my dog to work with me. And like she is kind of like an emotional support animal for the people at the venue. And like when tour managers come in, they come and they pet the dog and everyone's in just like a way more chill environment than like, give me this, give me that, give me this. There's a line item here that I need attention to. That's not the vibe anymore. It's like, there are way more intense things going on in this world than a bunch of people putting on rock and roll shows. Like, this is cool, this is rad, we are all very lucky. But like, we can come at this from a different POV than we were before, and I think it's better for all of us if we do.
Yeah, totally. I like it. It's almost like a night and day difference in how you were approaching it, and what the energy was you were bringing in. And I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
people's their own personal stuff. And now it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and I wonder how much of that, like the learnings you've had, like that, like I'm seeing it almost like energy being pulled from the past and your experience into like a funnel of where you walk, where you might place yourself. And um where was I reading this? That whole idea of like, I can't remember where this was. If I find the quote, I'll put it. But like, they were saying like the occultist in the day, like this modern time, like the occultist like playground or ritual space is like their everyday life, like their workspace, their,
Yes,
you know?
I love that. I
Hmm.
love that notion. I haven't read that, but I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think it's really important for the occultists to do their occultism in broad daylight. Like, I
Hmm.
think that it's not necessarily doing an LBRP in the middle of a stage in Los Angeles, but like living that ethos that you're practicing so much at home or with your group, whatever that might be, but actually like bringing it out into the light of day and be like living those philosophies.
Hmm. Yeah, like what are your thoughts about that then, because like there are some people who'd be in the camp of don't take a picture of your altar and put it
Yeah.
online, or like these types of things. Like there's certain energies that we would be holding sacred. And yet like I kind of feel like that was like the old story of where, whether I want to call it like the dark ages, where things were kind of more hidden, thus occult.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even just now with our technology, the level of consciousness that we're at and where we're going to be headed, like it's meant to be like out. Like, do you want to expand a bit more on that?
I
Like,
would love to talk about this. So I think of it like sun and moon. Um, like the moon side of things and the sun side of things. I have forever been like the weirdo amongst the, well, not forever, for the past 5 years, been the weirdo who loves the sun, who's like I am the sun person. I want everything to be seen, illuminated, known, like, and then I
mm,
think that is where I like to operate from to make the best decisions. But there is a place for this like moon, sort of more veiled, keeping things to yourself, esoteric, quiet, sort of occultish. That's like the more occult sort of alignment. But I do think exactly like what you're saying, and I also have been reading like the Lon Milo Duquette's Understanding the Thoth Tarot. Um, and just reading about all of like Crowley's ideas about the new aeon and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that there is something to like this. Yes, that was a thing, and there is still a lot that should be kept behind closed doors. But something like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it depends on how personal you're getting. If you've got like really personal things on your altar, if you've got really like sacred, consecrated items on your altar that are nobody's effing business, then yeah, don't be putting pictures of your altar up. But I think that if you feel it's independent to the magician, and if they feel like that is something that they want to share, there is no reason why we should tell them not to. Who would we be to tell them that? Like, are we the church? What's going on? Like, sorry.
No, that's a great point, though.
I mean, I do think that the teacher matters. So, like, if this person is working under a certain mentor or teacher or something, and they have an opinion about it one way or the other, you should pay attention because there's a reason why you're going to that teacher. But as far as your own practice, your own personal practice, I think that how much you want to share is what you should share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I'm still kind of torn about it, because
Yeah.
it's like there are some things I feel like can be held sacred. And at the same time, it's like the only way we're going to encourage or like, I guess not even encourage, but bring out this awareness to others is through the sharing. And what I've learned too is that you could have it right in front of someone's face. If they're not ready for it, it's going to be as if it was
That's
completely shaded. Or the universe, I find especially technology will create all sorts of chaotic things to make sure that that thing doesn't, like I would like just share. I remember there's a period of time I'm like, I'm going to read and record Crowley's like the Book of the Law. Because I just felt like I had to do that. Like it needs like a woman's flair, So I
love
spent
it.
a long time attempting to record every time. At one point, literally, like the USB I put the things on crapped out. My computer crapped out. I couldn't turn the computer on. And it got to the point where I'm like, okay, I guess this is showing me maybe it's not meant to be out. Eventually, I was able to. Who's to say it was like a universe thing or it was my own like readiness, like that level of readiness to exchange that or put that out there. But for me now, I say I love like sharing things, but I definitely will listen to the inner voice, which is, I feel like spirit kind of guiding me of, should this be said or should this not be said? And there's many times where it's like, don't share that. And,
Yes.
and I think because it's like, it's just meant for me in my learning and it could possibly lead people to like complete confusion.
Yes, totally.
Like more harmful, I think, than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're definitely not wrong about that. I also think if you're doing like a group working with a specific group of people, everyone in that group has to agree. You can't be sharing stuff that like the group says no to. And you should know that going into it. Like if you're a big sharer like me, I'm an oversharer for sure. But like when it comes to these sorts of things, I'm very respectful of what the guides say, what my group says, whoever, whatever's going on around me. Like I'm very conscientious. I used to be a big smoker too. I was like the most conscientious smoker you ever met in your life. I wouldn't smoke around other people. I wouldn't hide it, but like, don't come over here if you don't like smoke.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing with this. Like I treat it like if it's not just mine, other people's opinions matter. So
yeah, thanks for saying that. That must be your Libra side, because like I feel like a lot of people aren't, and I've like witnessed a lot of people in occultism like communities that I feel it's kind of like, or in the spiritual communities in general, like those kind of conscious woke communities where it's like, well, if you don't like it, then like
yeah, no.
I know, yeah.
And I
Hmm.
like everyone's weird, like, I don't want to say weird, but I like everyone's unique perspectives. Um, if I happen to be like, I really want to share this thing, and they say, well, I don't really like that, I just want to know why.
Mm.
Like, and I'll respect your opinion. It's fine. I don't have to agree with you, but I want to know more than just like, no.
Mm.
Like, that's cool, but why?
Yeah, yeah, like get into more depth as to like it's almost like an analysis, which some
I
people
like
can.
people like spinning their wheels a little bit.
Mhm.
I don't want it to just be like a blanket statement or like a just because so and so said so. Like I will still respect it if it's because so and so said so, but I still want to know what that is.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes to the like think for yourself, like know yourself.
Mhm.
Like, it's easy for us to just take a belief because someone else says it and not
Yeah.
really analyze what that means personally, especially in a given situation, right? It might apply, yes, to
Mhm.
like this topic, but not to like the day-to-day
Yeah.
life experience. So,
Yeah.
mm. Okay. Well, you've mentioned a few times, and like maybe this is an area where you mentioned like group or solo practice. So, like, what camp would you identify yourself as more like a solitary practitioner, or do you like mix both? Do you have like a magical group you engage with? And like, if so, what's the benefits of all that?
God, that's such a good question. um, I would say day to day, I'm a solo practitioner. But I do have a couple of magical friends who we have like our own little workings that we'll do with and for each other. And then I also have like a bigger group, like with the 22 teachings. We've done huge like Shem HaMephorash workings together that are 22 months long and doing all kinds of wild stuff, which by the way, I would love to talk to you about your book.
Ooh, yeah.
I know that this is the other way around, but I'm so curious. Um, yeah, and we have a lodge that meets every week. So that is just a little bit more like to me the more powerful workings right now are the solo ones, but it just depends on what phase of life I'm in, I guess, because it used to be that the group ones were the more powerful ones and they were very like it's almost when you're meeting every week, it's almost like that energy from the meeting just gets carried throughout the week and just like it's so I don't want to say comforting, but it's like this little bubble, like a little aura of wonderfulness that you're kind of working through while walking about your day in the normal world. I don't want to say normal either, but you know what I mean, the day-to-day
Mhm.
mundane world.
Yeah, okay. I see. Well, and it sounds like because in that group context too, it's like there's the power of the group and like the
Hmm.
mind that's being created as a collective, but it's still encouraging the individual, like
Yes.
subjective experience. And like thinking back to the movie, that Midsummer movie, I won't ruin like spoiler, but like, that like, and as a person personally who's been very interested in like cults themselves and like group mind that can get kind of like in a negative sense. I've
Hmm.
seen the opposite where it's like, oh shit, like people aren't allowed to think for themselves. And like, but it sounds like from what you're saying, the groups you've engaged with and you learn with, you get the mix of both and you have still the freedom of self, which I think is like that occultism. It's like the experience internal with the
Yes.
divine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could not. The reason why 22 Teachings works for me is because it is so self-guided. It's so
Mm-hmm.
like you do the stuff that you want to do, and you engage at your own pace, and you like. There's a lot there that suits me. I am very just like most people in this world. I'm very organized religion averse. I'm
Mm.
not. I don't like hierarchical things. I don't like the dogma. I don't like putting people into little boxes and all of that kind of stuff. Like I'm not, that does not suit me. That's not going to work for me. So if it ever became like that, I would just have to peace out. Love you much. Gotta go. But yeah, I have seen some really strange turns. You know, like talking about what you were talking about with the cult sort of mindset that
Hmm.
can happen to people, and I'm very uh aware of it. Like it's on my mind.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that's the important part, like maybe, being a part of different groups, like, oh, it's my puppy.
She sat up for a minute, but
Nice, nice. I love
she's
that
sleeping.
picture of the two of you. I was like, I should put that as the thumbnail, by the way.
You can if you
Let me
want.
go.
I don't
Okay, I
care.
might. I might ask to, anyway. Um, okay, but yeah, the importance, I think, and maybe this is just something for the listeners, and if you have anything to share, I don't know other places that you had explored or witnessed over like your time learning, or even prior to, like it sounds like you've been in different groups in a variety of settings, but like some people, I think they are like a little scared to start reaching out to others. I personally have like encouraged some folks to go because they were interested in learning about tarot and like things like that. And I'm like, oh, like to me, like 22 teachings is great. And this isn't like meant to be like a promotion for them, like,
No, no,
by
no.
the way,
Yeah,
I'm just
I know.
saying,
I know.
like, but I just really do appreciate like everyone that's part of there, what Naha's doing. I feel like it really is, like I said, it's balanced, but I've like encouraged the people, like, I haven't taken the tarot class, but I just feel like if you really want to learn it, in my experience, like I learned more about tarot there, even though I didn't take a tarot class. Go and check. But people kind of get like a little like
Yeah.
scared, and it's like, do you have any thoughts about how one could maybe face through those fears?
Mhm.
And what would it look like even for like finding that connection with someone that they trust, like a teacher, like it sounded like you had a bit of relationship with Ann Penn before anyway, so that
Mhm.
probably helped establish a bit
Yes.
of that. But yeah.
Yes. I will say that in that regard, I was lucky because I did, before going to the school, I saw a lot of 22 teaching stuff because Anne was my friend. And I was like, what is all this kooky stuff? What the hell are they doing? What's going on over there? But it was always like, I'm curious. Like, it's not judgmental. It's like, hmm,
Hmm.
okay. But I do think that there's an element of you just have to take the leap of faith. You have to want it bad enough. I think that that's kind of true with pretty much everything. Um, when you're exploring, especially something like this that can so easily have some really bad connotations. For me, the fact that I had to take magic fundamentals first in order to do astrology seemed
Hmm.
wild. I was like, why? Like, astrology isn't magic. Astrology is just astrology. It's like stars in the sky. And this is like, I had secret language of birthdays when I was 13 years old. Like, what? That's not magic. That just had no idea. And then, I took magic fundamentals and it all clicked into place really quickly, really easily. And like, oh, this actually makes so much sense. I've been here before, don't know how or where or why, but like this is familiar, even though it's wrapped in this veil of mystery and like it's so far away from everyone. It's not. It's like right in front of you all the time. And I can't tell you how many times I've been in a 22 class where like something that is being taught that is, ancient philosophy applies directly to the swing dancing movement that I did back in the 90s. Like, oh, this is the same exact thing.
Hmm.
Like, this is all the same stuff, just like broken down in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's nothing
So,
new under the sun. Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Hmm.
I just to answer your question, I just think that like if the curiosity is there, it's worth exploring. And it's kind of up to your gumption or, like how much fire is in your chart to like do it, to get it, to go for it and go after it. So like you just have to kind of leap of faith every once in a while, and that's one of them. It's not like going to your first mass. It's very different. And you have to be an active participant in what's going on. And if you aren't going to get anything.
Hmm.
But I recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And when you say mass, you mean like the Catholic mass, or are you talking about
Yes,
like
yes.
Gnostic mass? Okay, I'm just
No,
checking.
no, no. I meant,
No.
thank you for clarifying that. Yes.
No, and I only say because I went to a Gnostic mass, like, and that like sparked a whole bunch of stuff, and I just was like witnessing. I just, and it like, and I'm like, wow, if I could just take every spiritual, religious experience in that same
Yes.
capacity as like a movement of energy that's going to like create a leap. But it doesn't, it requires that faith to even take oneself to a certain
Yeah.
particular experience or ritual or teaching opportunity, and
Hmm.
it like makes us bump against uneasy edges.
Hmm.
It's like,
I love
ooh.
that though. I love that though. I have all this Libra stuff in the 11th house, like very air, 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 but I'm a Scorpio rising. So I'm like, give
Ooh.
me the like deepest depths of whatever of that stuff you can possibly find for me. Like
Yeah.
that's where I want to go. That's what I want to figure out. I want to know all your bumps and like what makes you cringe a little bit and like, I don't know.
Mhm. I know, I hear
So
that too. I hear that. I like because
yeah.
that's where the growth happens,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Otherwise, we're just kind of staying like stagnant. And
Hmm.
sure, that might be. I think some people really that's what they are meant for in this life. That's what they want, and that's okay. But
Hmm.
eventually, whether it's well, I don't know what your views are on past life things or reincarnation, but I feel like eventually you're gonna have to like face that.
Hmm.
Um, and to me, it's better that I have a bit more control around how that's
Yeah.
gonna happen and choose it, like than
Yeah.
the universe kind of creating it, which it is inevitable anyway. How we face those difficulties or those kind of upheavals, though, that will be a huge test too. So
Yeah. I think I'm like almost the opposite. I don't want control for the most part.
good for
Maybe
you.
it's because at work, like I think that at work I am so in control. I'm so in charge. I'm so like the final say on stuff. So I think that in just like my relaxed state is kind of the opposite. Not necessarily that I want the universe to take the wheel, but like I like come at me, bro. Like like a little bit of like what you got for me, like what do we got today,
Mm.
like and not as aggressive as how come at me bro sounds, but like just show me something.
Yeah.
Let's what do we got going.
Well, it sounds like you like trust, like, because I don't think
Yeah.
the universe does things that are going to be like harmful. Like,
Hmm.
it's more like the response to how like, and I give the example because it just recently happened where my car, like, it broke down and I had to like rely on other people to get around, do the
Oh.
things. And like, initially, the feelings I had were like complete lack of control and like, oh my
Hmm.
God, like stress reaction, like trauma reaction, pretty much. But then when I realized, like, no, you actually don't, wait, you actually do, like, there's a form of control here. It's just like trusting, I guess is how I
Yeah.
could put it. Then it, like,
Yeah.
I relax. I like how you use that word. Like, it was a relaxation. And now, like, coming from that whole experience, which I want to say was because of like some magic ritual that we've been doing, like,
Of
which
course.
I've done before, which is funny. I've done the same ritual before, and it like created issues with my car like a few years back. My partner was,
Wild.
didn't that happen like the last time? I was like, oh yeah, shit. But now I feel like something really shifted where I'm more at like just ease. I'm like, oh, it's okay. Even if I don't have a car, which I do now, or if I have to rely on someone. So it was like that
Yeah.
learning within that kind of bumping up to something
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
And then growth.
Yeah, yeah,
I love it.
totally. Okay, so on that topic though, like, do you have anything you'd like to share around like what's been like a really profound working or ritual that you've done that you would say really shifted things in your life, and how so, if you can talk about it?
There's I'm going to bring up this one just because of the timing. It's actually a personal one that I had. And I mean, the one that would be the obvious, especially for people that know me, would be the Shem working. It was that really long one. It was just kind of, it literally is about an exodus and like just a complete change in your life, which did all happen. And it is profound. But because we're talking about all of this on the Scorpio new moon, or right next to the Scorpio new moon, I'm going to talk about this one instead, because this was the one that actually confirmed to me that all of this stuff is real. It was fairly early on in all of my practice, and I had decided that it was time to do some ancestor work. And I did an invocation of the path of Scorpio, or the path of Noon. And I did the whole shebang and had some very profound visualizations and meditations and things come to me during that time. Obviously, I'm not going to get too like crazy into that, but it was actually the moment when, you know, when you go into a working, you might have kind of an idea of what it is that's going to come out on the other end of it. And this was not at all what I thought it was going to be, or even close. And it ended up being such a healing thing for me in my real life. Like in my everyday moving through life. It had nothing, it's really hard to explain, but it changed the way I deal with my parents right now, with the way that I view like generation gaps, and like how people are kind of suffering just in general, but that with some empathy and attempted understanding, like we could really get through a lot more of this with a lot more grace. So yeah, that move, that working to me was probably the most profound change and like confirmation that I've had. And it's on a Scorpio new moon, which is like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or I guess overnight, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And like that whole concept of death, like how it can be such a transformer, like for us in our lives in like a deep way. So, wow. And I love how you can, like, to me, that's where like the level of awareness is, when we can do like ritual or like take part in some type of prayer, even, you know, like some intention, and see the result. Because otherwise, like, and I feel like Crowley said some things about this. I can't remember his term exactly, but like, you know, the magic without the results kind of just like meaningless. It's like, you know, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, show. Though I think there's always meaning. There's always a result. We just might not always see it or sense it in that, like, but to have it happen so like quickly, even, you know, like within a period of time that you're able to connect the dots. Like, I think that's really neat.
It was really, it shook me, but, and it wasn't like comfortable, but the way that it changed everything for me was such a positive, just, inner serenity that like I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Well,
and that I wish for everybody, really.
Yeah. And everyone, I think, can have it. Like, if that's like something they're feeling in like an internal call to, like if that desires it, that's because it's meant for them. And now it's just trusting the like yellow brick road that will show up to lead them there. Oh, but I'm just curious, like from your ancestral lineage point of view, like with your last name too. I don't know if that was like your given last name or what, but like, what do you know what your ancestral lineage is? Like,
okay, so I know some stuff, but it's not from my family. My family is very like my family on this plane. My family is very just, I don't know. There's not a lot of rootedness there. There's not like a big attempt to put the family tree together and like, here, come look at these photos. My mom does try to do that kind of stuff, and that's like in recent years. But when we were growing up, it was just like, you know, me, my grandma, my grandpa, my mom and dad, and I have several. My mom's been married 3 times. But so I did do, a few years ago, a friend bought for me the Ancestry DNA stuff. And so I did that. And from that, I found out that I have a first cousin 9 times removed that was hanged in the Salem witch trials. And it was a man. and his name is John Wilkins. I hope I got that right. It's either Wilkins or Willard, and what sucks about that is that they were literally enemies. But
Oh,
John, yeah, they were enemies. So one of them is the one that got the other one hanged, basically. And I keep messing up the last name because it's so close. But he's got like there's a monument in Salem, and he's got a plaque there. I was in Salem and didn't know this information yet. So about 2 months after I got home from Salem, I found out, and I was like, son of a bitch. So I am going to go back and do some work there. But when I finally did some digging and like got to the bottom of his story, I was like, oh yeah, I'm definitely related to this guy. Like, definitely. His whole story is that he basically wouldn't rat people out, and not even rat people out. He knew that they weren't witches, and he was a like temporary constable for a little while, and he was supposed to arrest these girls, and he said, I'm not going to arrest them. Instead, he went to a bar and he talked shit on his boss about how his boss wanted him to go arrest these girls. And the people in the bar were like, oh, guess what? We're going to call the cops now. So he ended up getting arrested and got hanged with them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, that's definitely mine.
Well, like breathing that in, like, because I do believe like the experiences of the past and how they like go across the generations impact us now, like, you know, and it's fascinating to see you in the position that you are now, like in this place of curiosity, learning about the things that probably back then, well, not probably, were like back then, right? Very much like frowned upon. People were harmed about. And what that means, like it's like this like really cool like almost like revenge story, or like coming back to whatever.
I'm excited to go back. I'm excited to go back, but I am a little bit, I don't know, I get a little bit prickly about it, especially around this time of year, because it's just like, what a pity, you know? Like, what a shame. Those, I think we were talking about this yesterday. There's a magician online who's got a hashtag going around right now that's like what witches look like, and it's just normal people. Like, hi, I'm just a normal dude, like, or hi, I'm just a normal chick. Like, and that is what witches look like. And you know, the whole, not just the American witch trials, but the European, like thousands of people just offed over fear. That's just that's the kind of
fear
stuff that
and
make me crazy.
greed, and also like just because someone didn't like someone, you know, because I think everyone, no matter who they are, where they are, they have the potential for magic. And magic just being like, we can create, we can direct our will to like create something that we want, or create a shift in this world, because like we're made in the image of God. Like God created the world, God created us, like we can too like do these things. Not, you know, maybe at the same degree, but I think there are some, you know, like there's sorcery out there that can like shift the weather, like that. Totally. Like, you know, it's just a matter, I guess, of our level of willingness, maybe. Yeah, like everyone has the potential to be that magical being and expand themselves in a way that connects them more to the like the divinity that is.
I find it so fulfilling. Like, you know, I think a lot of what ails the world today is a lack of that. A lot of people feeling like no purpose. There's no fulfillment. Everyone is just so under-resourced. They just constantly feel like they're scrounging for scraps. And like, you can, without money being involved, or at least not insane amounts of money, you can shift that for yourself. And that's some magic in and of itself. But yeah, it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Oh, and I realized it. What time is it? Okay. We got a bit more time if you are still okay. And I am realizing you see, I told you we go with the flow. My questions I send you.
It's
Like out
good.
the window for the most part. But there are some I wanted to touch on. Um, Primarily, like kind of going back to like the tarot, going back to some of that stuff. Um, and the I know you like talking a lot about politics
Oh yeah.
on at least I think you do. I see some of your
Yeah,
stuff on Instagram and I'm like, ooh, okay. And
I
being
do.
a Canadian and not really in like the American political world or in living down there, like I just wonder what your thoughts are on like the upcoming elections, or I guess it'll be probably around the time this comes out. And like tarot and like astrology and like even magic. Like, how do you perceive that? What's your view on it?
There's a few different ways this can go. I think that the most pronounced thing that stands out to me is this movement of Pluto from Capricorn to Aquarius. So it's more of like an astrological lens than a tarot lens. The thing that really strikes me is this change from Capricorn into Aquarius with Pluto.
Hmm.
So there's a few different ways that this can be uh, looked at, but I think that it's really obvious that there's like a new dawn coming, a
Hmm.
new, like, once the tower falls, you look up and there's the star. There is something like that would be the card associated with Aquarius, for those who don't know. And the card associated with Capricorn is the devil. So moving from the devil into the star is just in and of itself like such a huge leap. It's going to feel very different. Now, which way though? And what bothers me, what keeps just grinding my gears, is this Pluto retrograde going back and forward. But finally, we're almost done. So I think we're finally getting into that, like, it's finally here. The real star moment is here. We are going to see a new day ahead of us that's not quite so under resourced and feeling so dense and uh, in need of assistance, really. Like, we can't help ourselves. Like, I think that there's going to be massive change that comes through in the next 20 years. And that's mostly because of the Aquarius moment, the Pluto and Aquarius deal.
Hmm.
There's also like Mars and Pluto are opposed right now, so I do think that like after the election day is officially Tuesday. I don't think we're going to know right away who like the winner is going to be. Um but I do think that there is the possibility for upheaval in the short term, like short term upheaval that's not real pretty, that's potentially in fact pretty ugly, but that will open up to something a lot more positive after.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess just hearing you say with those cards too, right? Like the burning down of the things, so that
Yeah.
like when I hear the star, I really just see like the kid wishing upon a star, like your
Oh,
wildest dreams, everything kind of being what you've
yeah.
wanted, and like the innocence, I guess, of it that can
there's
exist. Like,
there's such like a purity to it.
mm,
um and I really do think that there's going to be really like huge advancements. Like, there's
mm,
going to be technological advancements that we like, stuff we aren't even thinking of. uh
I wonder what that would be.
People have been talking about how, America, the revolution, like the American Revolution, the French Revolution, America's Pluto return, and all of that stuff. They've been a little bit kind of uh, like doom and gloom about
Yeah.
it. Like, we're gonna have some like horrible military sort of awfulness happen, which is possible. But I think in my mind, it just feels like more of like a thought revolution, like
Hmm.
not so much like a physical revolution, but like a brain evolution. Revolution, I meant, but
Yeah.
that's fine. We'll say evolution. So yeah, I think there's something very like brainy and heady about it to me that I'm seeing, but I don't know. We'll
Mm.
see how it goes.
Well, and that makes sense because I do believe, like, again, it's like we've left this very tangible, like everything in the past was very like war based, like
Mhm.
physical. action based. Like, but that's like our old way. Like that's like, yeah, so it's even like, you know, they say now we're in a war. It's like a war for the minds. Like, and it's like I do believe that. Like
Yeah.
it's not so much in the tangible physical reality. It's like a deeper, which, you know, or like without getting all like into the conspiratorial stuff with like AI and
Yeah.
like I do sometimes worry about like things like people getting too much into like virtual reality. And like we watched a commercial just the other day where it's like, oh, don't go to the gym, like just work out with the headset. And like, you know, you don't need to go out and see like your friends, like just wear the headset. And I'm like,
Oh, God.
we were just like, holy shit, like, is that the world we're going to? And yet, out of any of these things where we like constrict ourselves or come like closer into the internal, there's more potential for the like big bang to like expand beyond. And I just hope it doesn't like take too long for us to get to that point, you know, like that we, you know, all of a sudden everyone's just sitting on their couches with VR headsets, like completely like obese and with no proper physical way of being, you know, but then what's that movie? Wall-E, right? Yeah, thank you. You know, where it's like, then all of a sudden people start realizing, like, oh, like, cool. Like, that's so cool. That's that, like, that movement forward where we've evolved, even though we had to maybe take a few steps back. So, I guess we'll see what happens. I will look forward to hearing your thoughts as it continues.
I also think that like a spiritual revolution is happening. I think it's happening like right now. It's my understanding that right now, as far as like tarot and astrology and things like that are concerned, they're at an all-time high popularity wise. And I think people are hungry for a higher meaning that isn't dogmatic. That like they want a higher they're hungry for that spiritual awakening, but they don't want someone telling them how to exist. And I know that that's a fine line to walk, but people are kind of tired of this patriarchal, like, this is how we do everything. It's very Saturnian. Everything has like a very, whoop, this is how everything fits and we do it this way because this is the way it works. And there's so many people now that are like, but we could try this. Why don't we try this? This might work too. Or, you know, there's so many really like brilliant and kind of like in that stroke of genius kind of a way minds that are coming up with ideas left and right that are so much better. I'm going to be really gross here for I'm not gross, but I'm going to be really specific here for a moment, and people are just going to have to deal with it. Like a speculum should not still be a speculum.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I'm sorry, that is
what century is this?
So outdated, and there are so many options that have been like, you know, there's what's the word I'm looking for? Like there's like prototypes that have been built, like created and shown to doctors and shown, and they're like, no, we can't use these. Like, you got to be out of your mind. It's this old technology that we're using on our human women. What are we doing? So anyway.
Oh wow!
Sorry that I
didn't realize. No, that's okay because I've never thought about like there being other prototypes. I've never looked at it, but like the last time I went to get it, I'm like, why is it that I still have to go through this? Like this, and then like oh my god, I won't say this part because then it'll definitely be TMI. I'll maybe tell you off camera, but like it's like I know my body better than you do, dear doctor. But I love how it's like a phallic shape too. It's like a mechanical phallic shape, and it's like if that goes, and that would almost be the like moment of complete evolution or revolution for like the feminine. Like wow, like there's a new way of existing in healthcare or in health or wellness with our bodies that don't require like invasiveness of an external object or
it's so ridiculous. There are so many things that could be done, but they're just like, nah, it doesn't matter. I'm like,
Wow.
It also makes me think though of that, like, you know, again, back to I'm reading that the Understanding the Thoth Tarot, you know, the different aeons, like being very matriarchal system and then a very patriarchal system, and now we're coming to this one that's like a little bit of a blend of the both, the Horus, like, you know, it just, and this is how it applies to your everyday life. When you can start applying those like kind of like seemingly out there concepts to like going to the doctor
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, maybe we'll see some changes with that in the next like couple of years. Oh, wow. Okay. So I know we're coming to the end. I want to like just, honor your time. That I'm also one kind of question I had for you is if you had to pick three tarot cards
Mhm.
that like, maybe really resonate for you or you would say are like a part of you, what would those three be?
What a good question. I'm definitely going to say the sun. Like that's my favorite of the majors. It's the card that I look for. Um, uh, I, I think like it. Okay, I'm going to say this one, but this isn't one of my choices. I think like everyone's favorite or close to everyone's favorite is the Nine of Pentacles. It's just
Okay.
such like a beautiful, lush card. The woman in her robes and in her garden, like the bird and the like forever learning and like she's got the support of that behind her and it's just kind of like a
Mhm.
lush beautiful the little snail like everything I love everything about that card but I think that's kind of like an easy one for everyone so the sun is a choice and then I'm okay so I take it back I'll do the sun I'll do the Nine of
Okay.
Pentacles and then the battle and this is always the battle is Justice and the Death card those
Mm.
two are like fight for my life. So I really justice just speaks to me the fairness, the clarity, the like it might not feel good, but it's going to be fair. Like that speaks to who like how I'm made. Um and then the death card is just first of all the art on the death card is always great. Almost every deck that you that you go through if you find that death card, it's almost always great or like the best one of that deck. And just that symbolism of transformation and uh, you know death. Like it's such an integral part of living, and it's so ignored. It's so or like maybe not ignored, but like feared to the point of ignored. So like yes, it's always there. It's always on people's minds, but it's like no, we don't talk about
Mhm.
that. It's taboo, which is
Mhm.
perfect for the card. It's another reason why it's like the joke within the jokes, like
Mhm.
the movie Scream, where like you're in on your own joke. It's so good. Yeah, so I would battle between those two, and I don't know what I would pick.
Okay. Well, and I see them as like one and the same if I think about like Ma'at being like the
Oh,
balancer and like having the scale in death or the afterlife anyway. Do you know? Like, so
yeah.
it sounds like that's kind of where you're at, like around it almost. Is like there's something
Uh-huh.
transformative there, an opportunity to see, okay, what's the outcome of this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I agree with you completely about our relationship with death. We're like the
Yeah.
trying to fight it and push it away instead of like embracing it as
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity for something. Um,
Yeah. Like I'm not
mm.
looking to die. I'm not excited about the
No,
idea of dying, but I'm very like that's fine. Like that's just the next like time like era I go through my death era like but you know what I mean like it's just that's what's coming that's the next thing and I'll do the best that I can until I get there.
yeah, yeah. Live life, live
Yeah,
life.
definitely.
Make the moments the most you can. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to take a look at the Nine of Pentacles too, because I feel like I'm seeing it in the Thoth deck more than the Rider Waite deck. That's why
Oh
I'm like,
yeah,
oh, can't
that would
even
be a
like.
lot different actually. Yeah.
Like do.
Oh, okay, if we're talking about the Thoth deck this is
Well,
different
no, I wasn't. I wasn't referencing any particular one. I just that's maybe where my mind goes to. But yeah, why would it change?
because I would choose the Aeon for sure. That is
Okay.
one of my favorite cards out of that deck. I swear when I'm shuffling it, I can see it. Like
Mm.
I also though, I just gotta say in that deck, Lady Frida Harris, mwah,
Mm.
I can't get enough of her. I I cannot the art in that deck is
Hmm.
so stunning and profound. I love it. I would also probably the art card would probably be
Okay.
a choice from that deck. Um, Okay, I'm gonna stop because I'll just keep going now.
That's the thing, right? I know it's like I did put it in my email too. I was like, "Ooh, what three will it like she choose right at the kind of
That's exciting.
spontaneous moment?" But yeah,
I
it's
love it.
like I feel like the tarot itself is just a great representation of life, and however one chooses to like connect with it, and that can
Mhm.
evolve as we go through life. You know, our perception of it. Like I like how you say you can see that Aeon card as you're like shuffling. Like there's something about the energy of this stuff, and so I guess as a final kind of closing, do you have any words you would like to share with those listening, watching, just kind of as a intuitive guidance, if you have any there?
Stay curious, my friends. Um, try stuff and really explore who you are so that you can contribute to the spaces around you in your own unique way. Like that is to me the most important element of this magic stuff is knowing yourself to the point where you feel absolutely comfortable contributing to society in the way that is aligned with you. Because we are really cool. Like I know that's not a really profound way to put it, but like when we are like our most unique selves, we really are like pretty cool entities. And authenticity is very contagious and very transparent. Like you can smell it. And it's really, really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. Yeah, so much freedom within that. Oh, thank you, Jen. Oh, this has been awesome. I'm like thinking, I'm like, I gotta have her back and like ask more questions. I would love to pick your brain about like the music things
Oh yeah.
and how that ties with magic too. But for now, thank you for being here, for sharing your wisdom, your
Thank you.
experience, and yeah, through story, just your energy of like it's just so like yeah, like you said, it's contagious because I feel like you just be yourself. So thank you.
Thank you.
And
For
I'll be
better or worse.
sharing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just said being myself for better or worse.
Oh, yeah, like this is live.
Yeah.
So those of you watching, listening, I'm gonna put Jen's information in the description so you can access. You're on Instagram. I see you have like a Substack as well. Is
Mhm.
there any other places you think you'd like people to reach out to you or methods like that?
Substack is probably the best one. That's just she said with love.com will get you there. And then Jen Stravaganza is my Instagram.
Okay, sweet. Thank you, Jen. Okay, bye
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye. Mwah, 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 mwah.